and that you would like to post, feel free to use the hashtag SIP webinar. And also, throughout the webinar, we want to encourage you to ask questions. So there is a Q&A box that you can use at any time throughout the session to ask your questions. And I also see that a lot of you are already using the chat. So if you have any comments or questions as well, feel free to use the chat. To date, we have educated almost 27,000 nonprofit leaders, and we're very proud about the feedback that we get from the classroom. Our participants are very satisfied with the course content and also can apply immediately what they learn. So we make sure that everything that you learn from us, is very practical and that you can do it right away. And also 99% of our participants feel engaged and energized by our instructors. So talking about our instructors, we have two of our very own today, and soon you're gonna see their pictures. We have Dana Varga, who's our Marketing Account Director at the Sanford Institute of Philanthropy, and Carrie Conradi, who's our Social Media Marketing Manager here also at National University. So we're very excited to hear all the secrets and tips that they have to share with us about how you can use social media for your nonprofit organization. So without any further ado, I'm sure you want to hear from the expert. So I'm going to pass it on to Dana and Carrie. Take it away.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And as we get started, we want to make sure you know where the chat function is. So if you have questions throughout, so if you could just go ahead and put in the chat where you're joining us from, so city, state, and then what are you hoping to learn today? So if you can just put in your little chat function those two things, and then we will know that you know where it is. And if you have a question that pops up, we do have moderators that are answering the questions, and I'll try to address some of the questions. And we do have a couple polling questions throughout the presentation. So on that, I am going to jump in, and we're going to talk about what is trending for 2017 for social media as it applies to nonprofits specifically. So what we're seeing is the addition of mobile payments, and I'll go into some more detail, but this really is where people can donate. They can do it with just a simple, couple clicks of their phone. Peer-to-peer promotions for nonprofits are really working well. Influencer campaigns, we see this across all social media, and it specifically can be applied to nonprofits. And then really a return to humanity on social media. So when we talk about mobile payments, what we're seeing is this is where Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Android Pay, where it's set up through your phone and people can click to a website and pay through their phone. So this is pre-processed credit cards and makes fundraising and donations easier on the user. Another addition we're seeing is the donate button that's actually available right on Facebook. There's also Snap Cash, and Twitter's working on one, and Instagram is owned by Facebook, so it's only a matter of time before we see a donate on Instagram as well. So, but as you set up your Facebook, a pro tip, in order to take advantage of the donate option on Facebook, you do need to set your page category to nonprofit organization or charity organization. So Facebook Donate, this is a fairly new functionality. Prior to this, and they still have it available, is there's a donate button you can add to your ads or your page header. That links to your website. Users can process payment through some sort of merchant account on your website. The addition is the donate button available through Facebook. Now, Facebook does verify that you're a charity organization, has to be 501c3. If you're international, you have to provide your VAT license. So there's some hoops you have to jump through to be able to use this button. However, it can be used within page posts. So you can actually run a campaign and have a donate button right in the page post. It can still be in your page header. It can be used with live video. And really what it does is it streamlines the donation process, and users have already pre-processed their credit cards, and it's really like 2 clicks and they've donated to your cause. So this can really help with impulse donations. Another thing that we're seeing trending, and this is using the Facebook donate button, is the peer-to-peer donation opportunities. And so really peer-to-peer is where I set up a funding account, I say, you know, I'm raising money for this cause that I find important, and I send it out to my network, and it really can amplify your nonprofit message, amplify your fundraising efforts, and makes it easier for your donors to donate and participate in your cause. It can also be integrated into live video. Another thing that's really trending, and really this was started on Monday this week, is peer-to-peer, the Me Too campaign. Started by Alyssa Milano, who can be seen as a key influencer. She brought up this campaign. I think if any of you are on social media, you've seen a few of these posts, and it's just really building awareness. And
yeah, Dana and I we were just talking about this, how this just happened on Monday, and the fact that it already has over 22,000 retweets. It just kind of shows how quickly things can spread on social media, and not just to your network, but to everyone's network on social media. And so if you have a cause that people can get behind, that they feel passionate about, and what's nice about the nonprofit category is it's so easy to do so. So we definitely feel like social media can be your best friend to utilize people.
Another trend that I think we've all seen again on Facebook is the birthday campaigns. And this is a peer-to-peer. So I have a birthday coming up. I want to solicit my friends to donate to this cause. I don't want gifts. I don't want people to buy me bottles of wine. I want to support this cause that's important to me. And it really lends to growing your fundraising efforts and building awareness of your cause. Another really phenomenal example of peer-to-peer fundraising is the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Now, this was a few years ago, so 2014 is when they did the first Ice Bucket Challenge, and really it came down to, you know, someone challenging their friends to dump a bucket of water over their head. And it started actually kind of as an influencer campaign. There was a pro golfer that was the first one to do it, and it really spread like wildfire. They raised, ALS raised $220 million in 2014 worldwide. And then 2015, they did it again, and they raised in just the US $500,000. So pretty phenomenal fundraising, hugely successful in raising awareness for ALS disease. So, you know, while it's a few years old, this is really probably a very prime example of where peer-to-peer was extremely successful in supporting the cause. So if you look at statistics for peer-to-peer fundraising efforts, a third of donations are made through these peer-to-peer donation requests. It obviously skews a little bit higher in the millennials and Gen X, but it's still pretty high at 63% in the mature market. So it's definitely worth integrating into your campaigns and your social media strategy. Another thing that we are seeing trending across all social media, however, it does have an application to nonprofits as well, is the influencer campaigns. So this is where, you know, you can pick celebrities or really social media stars that have 1 million plus, multi-million followers, even hundreds of thousands, all the way down to your micro influencers, which are your existing volunteers, users, existing donors, and it really amplifies your message. And if you think back to the Alyssa Milano example, you know, she could be seen, obviously, a celebrity influencer, and these campaigns can be built through finding and identifying mega influencers or even macro and micro that already support your cause and that are willing to do it because they believe in what you're doing in your nonprofit, You can also approach these influencers and offer them money, just as you would for any other advertising campaign. And they oftentimes will post on your behalf and support your cause and amplify your message. So those are four of the trends that we're seeing that are really popular right now and that are applicable to nonprofit organizations. As you build out your social media strategy, I'm going to go into how you kind of identify the channel. You look at your target audience, the demographics, the sociographics, how you plan, so how you create your message, how you write your value proposition, and then how you can do research to support all of these choices you have made, and then how you execute, promote, measure, and learn from your campaigns. So first thing we're going to look at is there's lots of social media out there. It's all growing. Seems like there's something new every week. It's obviously popular. 68% of U.S. adults are on Facebook. But while it's popular, you do want to kind of look at what your message is, what you're trying to achieve, and what platform might be the best one. So first example is Facebook. It is the most popular. It is popular among women, Generation X. So if you think of kind of the middle-aged housewife, this is that sweet spot for Facebook.
For us at National University, we're a nonprofit private university, and of all the social media channels, and we're on all of them, Facebook is our largest with over 90,000 people. So I definitely feel like Facebook, and our demographic is 32-year-old female. So to Dana's point, it does skew a little bit larger, and it just has the most active monthly users. So I tend to find this to be one of the more active and popular social channels for businesses in every vertical.
And then you have YouTube. It does skew a little more male. The nice thing about YouTube is people tend to stay on here a little bit longer. You have the opportunity to tell more of a story on YouTube. And again, it skews a little more male, and you get a little bit higher engagement. So and it's a wide age range.
Yeah, primarily video content. For National University, we have all of our longer videos on YouTube, and we will put shorter videos or short teasers on the other social channels. Since, for example, on Twitter, you can only post a video that's shorter than 2 minutes. YouTube, it's pretty much unlimited amount of time. So that would be the difference between the video channels.
You also have Instagram. This definitely skews a lot younger and definitely towards the female side. It is the fastest growing. So if you're reaching millennials, I mean, this might be a nice source of volunteers, but it's all under 35 age group. And so it might not be the very best source for a large fundraising campaign. But you really have to look at what your goals are, what your target audience is, what your message is, and what platform works the best.
And I'll chime in for Instagram. Instagram is my personal favorite social network, and I'm a social media, I love it. I think it's visually based. So as you're scrolling through, it's all pictures. So definitely if you have events where you can get photos, it's completely photo-based, and photos do the best. We've tested video, we've tested all kinds of content. Definitely want to just stick with photos for Instagram. What's interesting is we're finding that, so here's an example. National University, we have 90,000 people on Facebook. Our Instagram has a little over 3,000, so you could say, oh, well, that's just a sliver. It's such a smaller group, so it's easy to write it off. But if we look at our engagement rate, it's 4 times higher on Instagram. So even though our content isn't getting seen by as many people, when we post something, pretty much everyone is seeing it, engaging with it, sharing it in some form. So my tip for figuring out which channel fits for you is A, look at your demographic. This age information is going to be a super helpful place to start. But after that, B, look at your engagement rate. And that's the total people that your post reached, which Instagram and your Facebook page will give you that information. It's total people reached divided by total engagement. So likes, comments, shares, anything that they did with that post. And that tells you not if people are on your channel, are they actually interacting with you? Because if no one's actually engaging, commenting, sharing your content, it's not going to spread to their peers and be able to tap into the power that is social media. So hopefully that's a helpful hint to figure out which channel works best for you, because it really depends on your business and your demographics that you're trying to reach.
And finally, we have Twitter, which again skews more male. It skews young. It's extremely oversaturated, and people are in here a very short amount of time. They jump on, they see a few news snippets, and then they move on. So again, it could have a place in your social media strategy. You just want to really evaluate all the different criteria. So once you figured out what channel that you want to post on, or as part of figuring that out, you want to look at your target. So when you're identifying who you want to reach, you want to look at demographics. That's your standard age, income, education level, etc. Beyond the demographics, you want to look at your psychographics. What is your target persona? What are their needs? What are their interests? What are their attitudes? And then thirdly, you want to really look at their sociographics. So if you figure out who they are, what they need, what they're interested in, then you want to figure out how do they interact with it? What are their personal needs? What's their personal profile? What are their attitudes? How do they socially interact? And that's going to really narrow down your audience, help you determine and dial in your channel, help you write your messaging, set your goals. The next part, as you plan, is to write your message, craft your message. And this isn't necessarily a numerical or in order way. You're really going to work on all these things together. So you're going to look at what channel, you're going to look at what your target is on that channel, and then you're going to figure out what your message is. What's your value proposition? What's the appeal? Why do people support you? Why do they donate? Why do they volunteer? Why do they support your causes? And there's lots of different reasons people support nonprofits. Does it lend to their spirituality? Are they looking for recognition? Obviously, this time of year, a lot of people are thinking about the tax benefits. And then sometimes it's an impulse thing. And if we think back to the easy donate buttons that people have already loaded their credit card information in, they see something appealing and they want to donate, they can do it right off the bat without delay. So social media really gives you a nice platform for that. The other thing you want to consider in your value proposition, what differentiates you? There's lots of nonprofits out there. There's lots of causes. There's lots of people trying to do good in the society and the world. How are you different? What do you provide that's unique? The third thing you want to really make sure you nail down in your message and your value proposition is your credibility. Where does your money go? How much of the money goes there? What are your checks and balances? And then the fourth thing is you want to be very clear. I think about, there's a campaign running right now in San Diego. $1 buys 4 meals for at-risk people, at-risk hunger people. So that's very clear. That's very simple. If I give $1, that's 4 meals. So you really want to keep your message clear. So we're going to stop and do a little poll right now. If you could just find your chat function, and if people can just put in why do people donate to your organization? Why do they support your organization? Why do they volunteer? Why do they sign your petitions, support your advocacy? And I want to go back to, I saw a question, we are answering some questions in chat, but I wanted to go back to, someone did ask if it seemed disingenuous, like for the key influencers, that if you pay a key influencer, typically your audience is not going to have knowledge that you have paid them, but they're really key influencers on social media that have built a large following. They build that as a business, and so they are out there to support, and it's how they make a living sometimes, oftentimes. I mean, I know people probably don't think of it that way, but they do spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, if you've built a following of, 500,000 on social media, you're putting a lot of time into that, and so you compensate them for their time. And so, and oftentimes, because if you are a nonprofit, if you can find someone aligned with your cause, you're probably not going to have to pay them a tremendous amount of money. And even if you do, though, it's a good investment. You would invest in potentially doing a direct mail piece. You would invest into possibly media, radio, TV advertising if you were running a big campaign. You might put ads in magazines. So just think of it as part of your advertising budget or campaign, and part of your marketing dollars that go to paying these key influencers on social media. So
Marie had a great comment. She said that a lot of celebrities volunteered their time in her past, so that's wonderful. And then, low-hanging fruit is your super active folks who are already out there. They're active on social and they're active in the community. Those basically are your brand advocates. So,
your existing users, your existing donors, your existing volunteers, they really are, let's see. So people support, trying to jump back and forth into this, because they care about their community. People support causes.
They share our vision.
They want to change.
Support.
Yeah, if their lives have been touched by a disease, they want to find a cure. So
out of respect, belief. So what's interesting is these are all kind of emotional reasons, I would say. So I got one question, what would our tips be to increase engagement, content that taps into those emotions? I mean, honestly, I can't tell you how many times I'm on Facebook and people throw up just their event or just their flyer on Facebook. And I kind of cringe because it's like, well, that's not what a social network is about. It's connecting people. It's connecting to others. It's, you see those videos. Dodo is one that's great. If you're not familiar with the Dodo, look them up on Facebook. They have a huge following. I believe that they bring awareness for rescue animals and causes like that, and they do a great job of telling a story and of resonating emotionally with their audience through that story. We try and do that on NU too, where we'll get the student from a story, we'll post their picture along with their story of that student, and that speaks to who we are and also what makes us unique. But really, the whole goal is tapping into the emotional reasons people go to college, or the reason they choose us, or the fact that we care about them and they care about their degree and that they're going back to school to change their lives. There's emotional reasons you do the things you do. And so for nonprofits, I feel like you're just totally aligned for success on social if you can tap into what it is that gets people passionate about your cause, and then how do you visually present that? Easier said than done, but now you know that really that's the pathway. And
so that actually makes a nice segue into how do you plan? So you've decided what platform, you've kind of figured out your target audience, you've looked at what your messaging is going to be. So you want to pull together content. So there's several ways to pull together content. You can aggregate content. So really that's pulling it from your archives, your historical photos, events you've already had, pictures, images. You can look at partners. Do you partner with other local organizations? Are there businesses that support you? And you really can pull together photos, images, pictures, stories. The other thing you can look at is curated content. So it doesn't have to all be your content. You can go out to other like social media, like nonprofits, and really comment and share their posts and leverage their content for your cause as well. And then the third way you can put together a library of content is through creating. This is obviously the harder way and the higher lift, but then you have original content that's specific to the campaign that you're running. As you look at what kind of content, and Carrie touched on this earlier, visual. So powerful visuals are going to get 17% more clicks. They're more persuasive. You want them to be attractive. You only have like 8 seconds, as Carrie was saying. Like the dodo, yeah, they have some beautiful pictures, some pictures of kittens and puppies and penguins and things. So with that 8 seconds, you have to capture someone's attention. You want to make sure it's shareable. So you will get 80% more clicks on a visually stimulating image, and it gets shared 3 times more than a non-image post. And you want to make sure it's memorable. So studies have shown that users remember only 10% of what they heard after 3 days, but they'll remember 65% of what they've seen. So make sure, as you plan for content, like Carrie said, pictures really perform the best. Videos can also be good in the right cadence and the right channel and the right audience and the right message.
Yep. No, absolutely.
So then, as you continue to do your research, you kind of want to evaluate exactly why you're using social media. There's lots of different ways to promote your nonprofit. It's really a two-way conversation, and this kind of goes back to bringing the humanity back into it. So you can leverage your existing network. So again, this is the peer-to-peer. You can grow the network through the peer-to-peer interactions. You can enlist the key influencers, which again just amplifies your nonprofit's cause and goals. And then always, and this is true really with anything, but especially social media, you want to be genuine when you post and when you do campaigns. You want to make it real. You want to make it, if your organization, if you can interject humor, then that works. If you can interject real people, real stories, posting and interacting, then that really is what can resonate on social media, especially for nonprofits.
Yeah, and somebody asked us what peer-to-peer means, and basically it means friend-to-friend, person-to-person, or friend-to-friend. And if you think about who's actually on your social network, it's your family and your friends. And if you think about the things that you've bothered to share with them on social media, it's usually stuff that resonated with you emotionally or touched your heart, a nonprofit cause that you're really passionate about. So the goal here is just to create something that's really easy for them to share with their friends and family in order to tap into the power of social media and their social networks. So that's what we talk about when we're talking about peer-to-peer. It's just basically sharing amongst friends and just remembering that this is a very personal space.
As you research your social media options, we want to look at what goals you're setting. And these are, this can seem dreary and kind of boring, but it's really important to set clear goals because this can help, obviously, with your key stakeholders. That's going to be your board of directors, your boss, your existing donors, even your volunteer base. And as you set out to create campaigns, there's lots of different things you can create as goals. You might want to promote an event, build advocacy. So I saw some of the why people support, and it's to keep their utility rates low. So people want to make sure the government or whatever policy is not going to affect them personally, financially. And so one of your goals can be, petitions to create advocacy, change laws. Fundraising, obviously, sometimes that rises to the top. But it can be hard to fundraise if you have no knowledge of your cause or your event or what your nonprofit supports. So sometimes you have to start more basically, and then you can fundraise later. And then obviously you can solicit volunteers, build communities, share information, get feedback. There's a whole list of goals that social media can help to provide. But by setting these goals as you start out, it will help guide what platforms, what audience, what messaging you put out there. So we'll take a moment, and I'm going to ask you to submit what your goals are for your organization. Is it fundraising? Obviously, I think that most nonprofits, many nonprofits is fundraising. Sometimes it's not. Fundraising is not a goal of the Sanford education programs. So our goals are set not based on fundraising, but so fundraising, building a positive brand, fundraising, kind of seeing the responses here. Obviously, we can have lots of different goals as a nonprofit. I think building awareness, changing the world, making the world, communities better, awareness, protecting the forest, of course, yeah. So now that if you've built out your audience, you've figured out your channel, you've crafted a message, you've set some goals, then you're pretty much ready to launch on your social media campaigns. So one of the things I highly recommend that you do is follow and like similar organizations. Again, you'll see what's trending. You can repost and engage with their content and vice versa. So that's a really great way to start. And then I really highly recommend that you build out an editorial calendar, and Hootsuite has a free tool that allows you to do that. And by building out an editorial calendar, this will keep you on task. It will keep you aligned with your goals and your message. And it will allow you to take advantage of, if there's Teacher Appreciation Week coming up and you have a platform that provides professional development for teachers, you're certainly going to want to build around some posts that speak to teachers and speak to teacher appreciation. So you don't want to miss key holidays, key events, key things happening. But when you build out your editorial calendar, don't ever think of it as set in stone. You want to be nimble. You want to be able to react to things that are happening, viral messages, things that you can use to really amplify your message. And then, like all marketing, like all advertising, you measure, you evaluate, and you replicate what works. What doesn't work, you kind of abandon that, adjust it, tweak it, and you just really try to leverage and build off of what's working. But how do you know what's working? So we put an example of on Facebook. If you go to your Insights tab, you can go and you can see data. You can see actions on page. You can see posts. You can see what your reach is, interactions, engagement. So if you find that maybe videos, people aren't interacting with videos, then you don't post videos, or you don't post as many videos. If you find certain images, certain pictures, certain messaging works, then you do more of that and adjust and evaluate. And then as you look at creating your target audience, you can also go, there's lots of insights, but another important data point you want to look at is, who are you reaching? Are you reaching who you want to reach? I do find it interesting. This is an MU capture, right? Or is this it's
a random one, yeah.
Oh, it's a random one. I was going to say, excuse men. So that's kind of interesting. And I was thinking this was NU, it's not, because it skews to Bangladesh. So if you found that maybe your audience isn't in Bangladesh and this was what you were seeing for your demographics, you'd want to look in deeper and figure out how you were posting and what you were posting and how people were engaging with it and adjust that. But if you were trying to reach people in Bangladesh and the United States and the Philippines, and this is what you were seeing, then you would be on point and you would continue to do this and leverage this more.
Yeah, that brings up a good point that when you set up your Facebook page, and obviously you want to set it up as nonprofit so that you can get the donate button free, which is huge, which is a really big deal. If you're an international organization, you'll have your page open to international. But if you are US only, definitely set your page to US only, because you only want to reach a certain crowd. Somebody asked us earlier, their question was about reaching more folks. How do they get more of their folks on social media? One of the quick things you could do is, if you send out emails or any kind of correspondence for your nonprofit, make sure your social media icons are on there, especially emails, because it's as easy as a click. Because if you get all of them onto your social media, all of a sudden you can get lots of information about them, about who you're reaching, age, gender, even their other interests, other pages they've liked. There's a lot of data you can get, especially through Facebook. So that's why it definitely behooves you to keep the awareness up of your channel.
So that concludes our content for this webinar. I do want to promote our next webinar, which is Perfecting the Pitch. It's how do you tell your nonprofit story? How do you tell your nonprofit story in a compelling way that gets your donors to engage and retell your nonprofit story? So please sign up and register. You can go to nu.edu/Sanford. That will take you to the Institute of Philanthropy website, and you can register for the November 15th webinar. And at this point, we do have some time left for questions. So if you haven't asked a question throughout, please go ahead and type in a question.
I got one. So we got one question from Robin in the Q&A asking what our thoughts are on LinkedIn. So for LinkedIn, what I found about that, LinkedIn is the more business-centric social network. So essentially, it's your online resume. You're going to list everywhere you've worked and any college degrees you have, and it's essentially an online Rolodex of sorts. So I found that the engagement rate on LinkedIn are fairly low, and that's because the number of daily active users on LinkedIn is fairly low because people will log in either infrequently or when they're mostly looking for a career or a job for the most part. I do find in certain verticals, like in academia, where there's a lot of publishing of articles, or in News Corp, something like that, they might have a high engagement rate on LinkedIn. So for LinkedIn, yeah, because people don't typically log in a ton. But if you are in the nonprofit space of helping with career or career services, if you have information on job placements, or you're in the industry of publishing articles, LinkedIn is definitely a spot that you want to look into. So I hope that answers some questions about how it's kind of niche.
So
engagement rate.
Do you have another?
Yeah, somebody asked key metrics that to look for. It's a good question because each social channel has different metrics. But just to keep it super simple, for those of us who don't want to data nerd too hard on it, it's just looking at your engagements. And what we say by engagement is just, are you getting comments? Are you getting likes? Clicks? Are people actually reacting and sharing your content? So however you can easily do that for yourself, just keeping tabs every day. I put it into an Excel so I can see which post or which thing of content I did resonated the most all month. You can do that. But yeah, just engagement is the name of the game on social media because that's essentially what we're trying to do.
I do see a question, and I'm going to refer to Carrie on this one.
Yeah.
But are there measurement or tracking platforms that we can recommend, both paid and free, because their board always asks for information about the reach of posts?
Uh-huh.
Is there anything you recommend?
Yes. So as far as tools, I really like, and this is kind of counterintuitive to the question, but like for data, I like to go natively. So Facebook into their insights. Instagram also has insights. That's where you'll get the most data and everything you want to look at. Hootsuite is great not only for scheduling out your content, but also it will pull in, anytime someone talks to you or mentions you, it will pull in all of those comments. And you can respond to them for free through Hootsuite. So that makes it a lot quicker because you can respond to everyone on multiple channels. You don't have to go to every single channel. As far as services that are data heavy, there's one called Simply Measured that's good, Sprout Social, but those are both paid. So if you want free and a lot of data, I feel like Instagram, Facebook, they definitely give it away for free on the back end through Insights.
I do see someone asked about Pinterest, and well, you find Instagram to be your favorite. I like Pinterest a lot, but I have to be honest, I don't know that I really ever go to any websites or engage in content. So Pinterest might be great for like awareness or building or, you know, getting eyes on your cause or your nonprofit. But I don't know that it would work for fundraising or event attendance or advocacy. But it,
so
I mean, what do you think, Carrie?
Yeah, on Pinterest, I definitely geeked out on Pinterest pretty hard when I was planning a wedding, because there's a lot of DIY stuff on there. I don't know if you guys have been on there lately, but it's a whole lot of craft stuff, do-it-yourself stuff, a lot of handy stuff, lot of recipes. So it's kind of like if you're trying to learn yourself, sort of like how you go on YouTube, you watch tutorial videos. Pinterest is the visual equivalent of that, I feel, a lot of DIY. So we have found a little bit of success, at least through the education vertical, if it's information that people can take for themselves and utilize for themselves. So maybe in your nonprofit, if you're empowering people or you're giving them the tools to do certain things for themselves, that's part of your mission, you could certainly create a nice visual infographic that might get pinned on Pinterest, and that could also, because it's visual, allows for a bit of text, allows for click-throughs to white papers and such. Also, retail does well on Pinterest. You'll see a cute skirt, you'll click it, you'll buy it. That doesn't apply to us. But yeah, if you do infographics, white papers, stuff where you're empowering people to do it themselves, then go for it. But I hope that answers the Pinterest question.
Oh, I like this question. Actually, I can answer this. How about copyrights when it comes to social media? Can you use online images for social media purposes? Do we have to tag the source? So you can actually in Google search, if you go to, it's the far right, you go to your settings, you can search for images that allow for you to reuse them. So that's one source I find. Actually, a few of these images I think in this presentation were from that. So I want to make sure it's not copyrighted. I'm not stealing something from somebody that, you know, doesn't put it out there for everybody to use. So that's one source for copywriting images. But yes, you do have to be careful. You can't take an image that's copyrighted and post it to your page, because you could be violating copyrights in that regard. But that's where you can follow like organizations. You follow other organizations, and if you share their post, if it's shareable, then you're not violating any copyrights.
And I think the name of the game on social media, every channel has a share button. So the trick is use the share button, because if example, it's a Union Tribune article, if there's a picture, hit share to share that on your page, because that'll give attribution. They'll get the likes and the shares and all that stuff. I've seen people, they'll download the picture from a news article and then upload it to their page, and when you do that, you're violating copyright. So always hit the share button, and if you can't hit the share button, ask permission. If someone shared it with you specifically, like you had a contest and sharing it with you, you know, it's implicit that you're going to use this. Definitely give them credit. Use their handle. Say, you know, use their name. This is a great photo from Maria. We always do that too.
Actually, I kind of like this question. I don't know that we'll be able to answer it for you. It's pretty challenging. And you may find in looking deeper that social media may not be the way to reach this. But someone has asked, how do you get a small, rural, elderly community to tap into social media in the first place? That's a pretty big challenge, because I don't know how elderly, but what you can do is potentially leverage grandchildren and children that may build awareness with this community. So what do you think about that, Carrie?
I also think that sometimes, I think the way to go is just, if you know who your demographic is, ask them what channels they use. That's the quickest way to get to that answer. If they're not on the platform, then you might be, if you're trying to tweet to someone who's not there, you'll never reach them. So I would just start there. See where they live. You might find, I've definitely worked at businesses where our email open rates were off the chart. And, you know, I've worked at businesses where Twitter was higher than more engaged than Facebook, which I never thought would happen. So you never know. Ask your demographic.
Well, and I see this is all about interaction and working together. I see somebody else actually answered that question as well. They said, let me go back to it, sorry, okay, so this is their situation too. So what they worked on is building a tech center and offering classes and workshops to improve their digital literacy first. And you may even find it that even if they're elderly and in the rural community, they may be looking at grandkids' pictures on Facebook, and that may be a way to reach them or engage with them. But I like that we have another attendee answering each other's questions. That's what these webinars are about.
Someone asked how many posts on Facebook are too many and how many on Instagram are too many, which is a really good question. I'm glad that you're concerned with not spamming people once they get on your channel. It's a good way to get an unfollow for sure. I think as a general rule, I think if you want to keep it to one a day on Facebook and on Instagram, you'll be safe. You won't spam people. Twitter, if you have just a whole lot to say, that's what Twitter's for. You can do 6 tweets a day on Twitter, and that's perfectly acceptable. But on Facebook or Instagram, if you were to do more than 1 or 2 a day, you would start filling up people's feeds, and then they'd be like, okay, we get it. Your nonprofit's super important. So I think less is more, and quality over quantity. Yeah. Definitely. So if you use that content calendar, aim for 1 a day, test it out, see if you get more engagement on Thursdays versus Saturdays. You'll always find you have certain days and times that work better than others. Do that. Stick to 1 a day. I think that's it.
I think, yeah, we will stay on and answer any more questions. So please feel free to ask questions. You can ask them anonymously as well. And yeah, just make sure you register for the next webinar and check your email box. By tomorrow midday, you will have an email that has a recording of this webinar as well as the webinar slides, so to refer back to. And we included a link to the reference source of each of the stats and information that we gave throughout the webinar. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.